Yeah, for you. My coach. I'm eating all this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. Eating all this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. Eating all this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. Eating all this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. Yeah, I'm built like that. Chrome on, drink milk like that. Tore on, I don't mix my facts. Fake bruise, can't call my jack. Burn it up like a bad shell. Rub your hood to my last breath. Back alive to the same step. Ready, brother, yeah, I came pro. I don't care about the fame guy. That's why I raise you who a name high. Just to work on the clock. This a ship that never stop. I am sure about the plan. Super cool like a fad. Sending my telegrams. With my face toward the land. People hate to see you moving, but they love to see you way down. Cowards hide what they doing. They swing and slide like a playground. Good soul got a grip on that. Spirit tall, put stilts on that. I'm highly favored on the scripts like that. Fake bruise can't call my chat. 613 the lifestyle. Perfection the goal. Trying to clean up my profile so I can get out the hole. Faithful one call me Joe. Tough time at the moment. Double push for the load. You who are throwing in a bone. You know this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. You know this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. You know this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. You know this true. Wash it down with juice. Don't spill it on the suit. I'm careful with it always. I'm careful with it always. I'm careful with it always. Your hood picks. It's not us who picks. It's not because you talk scriptures people supposed to listen. Nah, many are called, few chosen. Okay. A lot of time these seeds, you're gonna just drop them, and they're gonna produce no fruit. But that doesn't mean that you don't still reap. Because you storing your treasures in heaven, you're doing the most high bid. You're doing him a favor. This is how we can do him a favor. Alright? So that's what we have to do, just drop the seeds. Now if they don't take the seed, that's not your business. You're not the most high, you can't control people. That's what man gotta understand. See, we're in his image. We are not him. We can't read people's mind. We can't control people. We can't make anything move. Only thing we can do is talk, say what we say, and if the Most High is with you, those words too shall come to pass. If they don't, then the Most High is not with you. Okay? Since these words are the words of life, these should be the words that's coming out of our mouth, because these are the words that come out.
Shalom, YASHERALA, Kwam YASHERALA. Hope everyone is well. Verse of the day, John chapter 8, verse 32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It shall make you free. Now, if you know the story, the context of this, we'll go read it, but the people, the Messiah said, whose father was Satan, they said, we are Abraham's seed. We are free. Are you telling us we're not free? We're the seed of Abraham. But they were bound by chains, those same people. A lot of us, I'm sure you're someone, if you're like myself, you look back at your life and you remember how you were living, and you realize that you were so bound by chains and you didn't even know it. That's the sad reality we live in today, that the majority are bound. We all are bound by something. We all grow daily and learn, and we are set and made free daily if we choose. A lot of people ridicule me and give me reproach based upon my history and the things I've done in the past. And when I say things like I'm a prophet, I'm a priest, I'm a king, they laugh and mock at those statements. And they think, how could Daoud Doughty be what he's saying with all the stuff he's done? But what stuff I've done that they don't know about, that they've got no clue about, is what, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is what put me in the relationship with Abba Yahuwah that I'm in. They weren't there when I had to risk people I loved, my relationships, in order to abstain from paganry. They like to say things like, oh, he's just a hardhead. They got no idea that I naturally didn't want to do that. I used to love Christmas. I was a Christmas man. Like, that was my day. So they got no idea how hard it was for me, how much slaughtering of myself that I had to do to put those things down. I at the time, I was madly in love with a woman, and I gave my relationship up with her because of the holidays. And even her, she still thinks that was something that I just love doing. I mean, now if you ask me, yeah, I love having no part of any of paganry that I know of. But at the time, when I decided to no longer let those days cross my threshold, if you know what I mean. Back then, it was the hardest thing to do. I've said it before, the 2 or 3 years, the last 2 or 3 years that I partook of those celebrations, for a long time, I never forgave myself for doing that to Abba, for allowing those customs across my threshold when I knew better. It took me a couple years, 3 years, to finally put my foot down and say no more. It's not happening anymore. Every time I would get an invite, which those are slowly dissipating, hallelujah, when I would get an invite to certain parties and get-togethers that were celebrating paganry, I often told people this one common thing: you should treat that day like any other day. Don't do anything special. Don't give any credence, any esteem to any false deities, nor their days and customs, traditions, whatever. And that is a mindset that has worked tremendously for me. Just treat it like any other day. And I had all those same people ridicule me and say I was being ignorant and hard-headed and stubborn. But I think about what Daoud was just saying at the end of that track of Always. He said, many are called, but few are chosen. Abba choose. He's the one that chooses. But what is the criteria for those who would be selected by him? Is it their history? Is it what they've done in the past? Which everyone's done things in the past, and even they're still currently doing things. like all of us. So if you ask me, if I had to tell you what it was I did that would have warranted Abba Yahuwah to choose me, it would be, I put my foot down and I no longer allowed his arch nemesis across my threshold. And even arch nemesis isn't suffice of a label for what we're talking about here. We're talking about things that represent child pedophilia and pedivores. People who actually eat children. That's what we're talking about. I was, whatever it was that he stirred up within me, it was enough to disgust me enough to say no more. If I had to guess what it was that got him to pick me, I would say it was that. It set me free. I can remember the first quest for truth regarding his word was the Nicolaitans. I was reading in Revelations and I seen that he didn't agree with the people who held the way of the Nicolaitans, and he says, which is the thing I also hate. He hates it. That was the first thing I seen that I was like, who are the Nicolaitans? What did they do in order for him to hate them? I don't want to do that. And I searched it out. And from that moment on, I've been on a quest for truth, a thirst for truth. And I realized that's the only thing that truly sets you free. And I've been thirsty ever since. We're going to read a little bit of context here of the verse of the day. But there's something else I want to talk to you about. And I've been pondering, I've been contemplating on whether I want to read into it, although a while back I said that's what we were reading. We were reading from where I want to take you to. And I stopped, I had my little vacation. But since then, I've been contemplating on whether I should go back to that. And my reason for not is that it would bore you. But let me read a little bit. Don't touch that dial. And I'm going to ask you, are you interested in knowing what I'm going to talk to you about? Hold that thought. Let's see. Let's read a little context of this. Verse of the day. John chapter 8. And let's get some word into us. Let's feed together on that word. Verse 32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's do context, baby. Verse 1, and Yahusha, our Messiah, went to the Mount of Olives, and at dawn he came again into the set-apart place. And all the people were coming to him, and having sat down, he was teaching them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery. And having set her in the midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. And in the Torah, Moshe commanded us that such should be stoned. What then do you say? Is it any coinkydink that that's where we are right now? For those of you who've been paying attention to the words that come out of my mouth, is it? It's not a coincidence. It shouldn't be a coincidence to you. It should be more confirmation for you. And this, they said, trying him so that they might accuse him, like the accusers do, so that they might accuse him. But Yahusha, bending down, wrote on the ground with the finger, as though he did not hear. But as they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. You remember me asking you? I got a pile of stones here for those who like to throw. But the only question is, who's going first? You remember that? He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. And bending down again, he wrote on the ground. And when they heard it, being reproved by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning from the older ones until the last. And Yahusha was left alone, and the woman standing in the middle. He saw the bottom of their Nikes. He said, whoever's without sin, you be the one to cast the first stone. And they skedaddled. And Yahusha, straightening up and seeing no one but the woman, said to her, Woman, where are those accusers of yours? I seen the bottom of their Nikes. Did no one condemn you? And she said, No one, Master. And Yahusha said to her, Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. For those of you who condemn someone like me based upon my past, you might want to take note. Therefore Yahusha spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall by no means walk in darkness, but possess the light of life. The Pharisees therefore said to him, You bear witness about yourself. Your witness is not true. Yahusha answered and said to them, and see, they weren't even taking something out of context. They had no idea what he had been talking about, because if they would have, they could have never made such a statement. Yahusha answered and said to them, Even if I witness concerning myself, and he didn't, my witness is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going, but you do not know from where I come or where I go. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. But even if I do judge, my judgment is true, because I am not alone in it, but I and the Father who sent me. And in your Torah also it has been written that the witness of two men is true. I am one who witnesses concerning myself, and the Father who sent me witnesses concerning me. Therefore they said to him, Where is your Father? And Yahusha answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would have known my Father also. These words Yahusha spoke in the treasury, teaching in the set-apart place, and no one laid hands on him, because his hour had not yet come. Therefore Yahusha said to them again, I am going away, and you shall seek me, and you shall die in your sin. Where I go, you are unable to come. Then the Yahudim said, Shall he kill himself, because he says, Where I go, you are unable to come? And he said to them, You are from below. I am from above. You are of this world. I am not of this world. Therefore I said to you that you shall die in your sins, for if you do not believe that I am he, you shall die in your sins. Then they said to him, Who are you? And Yahusha said to them, Altogether that which I even say to you. I have much to say and to judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true, and what I heard from him, these words I speak to the world. They did not know that he spoke to them of the Father. So Yahusha said to them, When you lift up the Son of Adam, then you shall know that I am he, and that I do none at all of myself. But as my Father taught me, these words I speak. He was speaking the words of Abba Yahuwah, the Most High, our wonderful Creator. Why? Because he's the only one deserving of all glory, all praise, all honor, and all esteem. These are the words I speak. And I still get ridicule and reproach. Is it any wonder? The Messiah said, You're not above your master. If they hated him first, damn right they're going to hate me. Because I'm speaking the same words that he spoke. And he who sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I always do what pleases him. As he was speaking these words, many believed in him. So Yahusha said to those Yahudim who believed him, If you stay in my word, which is the truth, which is the understanding of Abba's word, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. They answered him, We are the seed of Abraham, and have been servants to no one at any time. How do you say you shall become free? Yahusha answered them, Truly, truly. And when he says truly, truly, definitely pay attention. And no, there is no way around it. It's absolute truth. I say to you, everyone doing sin is a servant of sin. And the servant does not stay in the house forever. A son stays forever. If then the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. His words set us free. Just because he came here and you can say, I believe in him, that doesn't set you free. How does that set you free? What sets you free is following what he said. What he said was the word of the Most High, and he broke it down for us. He sliced it and diced it accurately so we would know how to apply it to our lives. That's exactly what he did, and that's how we are set free. It's not just because you believe. You have to believe in what I just said in order to believe his words. Once you believe in what he's saying, it will set you free. I know that you are the seed of Abraham, but you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. I speak what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have heard from your father. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Yahushua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. Meaning, he in there somewhere, he said, I know you're the seed of Abraham. But if you were to take it from what I just wrote, he just said you're not the seed of Abraham. What he meant was, you're not doing what Abraham did when Abba asked him to leave all he knew. Like I was just saying, I did, that no one ever thinks about. They only judge the cup from how they see it on the outside. And all it would take is a couple questions before you start running your mouth and shooting out assumptions about why someone does what they do. If you would just say, what were you thinking when you did this? Why did you do that? What was the thought behind it? There you go. Ask those questions and you can find the answers you so claim to have. But you don't have them. All you have is accusations. The truth shall set you free. You can go on living your life thinking that someone done something for this and campaign on it, if that's what you want. But you're campaigning on falsehood, something that ain't true, so you're a victim. You're a slave to that. But if the questions were asked, the truth would be found. You wouldn't have to campaign on bullshit anymore. You'd be set free. You see how that works? Now let me ask you. I told you we were reading out of Ezekiel for those who've paid attention, and I hope you do. I was reading about the measurements of the Hakal, of the set apart place. And that is what I thought was too boring for y'all. So I'm going to ask you, before I go much further, I'm going to ask you, would this be something you're interested in? If so, can we study this together? We can work this out together. And what do I mean by work it out? Hold that thought. Let me read a little bit of it, and you tell me if we should work this out or not. You tell me. And I know we read Ezekiel 41, and I just turned 42. So I'm going to start at 42. If we got to go back and forth, however we got to do it, I got my bib on, my fork and knife in hand. I'm hungry, but we can do it however you want. Chapter 42, excuse me. And he brought me out into the outer courtyard, the way toward the north. Do you recall me saying numerous times that every word in his word is absolutely 1,000,000,000% necessary? Don't forget that. Use that rule here, especially. The way toward the north. And he brought me into the room which was opposite the separate place, and which was opposite the building to the north. Along the length, which was 100 cubits, was the north door. The width was 50 cubits. Opposite the inner courtyard of 20 cubits, and opposite the pavement of the outer courtyard. Before we go any further, before you touch that dial, Do you think Abba would waste time getting this word from Ezekiel with the measurements of the Hakal, the set-apart place, the slaughter place, the temple, to you? Do you think it's just a waste? Do you think he just put these measurements in there just, whatever? No. You are to know these measurements, and let me show you why. Opposite the inner courtyard of 20 cubits and opposite the pavement of the outer courtyard, gallery against gallery in 3 levels. 3 levels. And before the rooms toward the inside was a walk 10 cubits wide, a way of 1 cubit. And their doors were to the north. And the upper rooms were shorter, because the galleries took away space from them more than from the lower and middle levels of the building. For they were in 3 levels and had no columns like the columns of the courtyards, so the upper level was set back more than the lower and middle levels from the ground up. As for the outer wall, by the side of the rooms, toward the outer courtyard facing the rooms, its length was 50 cubits. For the length of the rooms toward the outer courtyard was 50 cubits, and that facing the Hakal was 100 cubits. And below these rooms was the entrance of the east side, as one enters from the outer courtyard. In the thickness of the wall of the courtyard toward the east, opposite the separate place and opposite the building, were rooms. And the way in front of them was like the appearance of the rooms which were toward the north, as long and as wide as the others. And all their exits and entrances were according to plan. And according to the doors of the rooms that were toward the south, there was a door in front of the way in front of the wall toward the east, as one enters them. And he said to me, the north rooms and the south rooms, which are opposite the separate place and the separate rooms, where the priests who approach Yahuwah eat the most set-apart offerings. There they place the most set-apart items, and the grain offering, and the sin offering, and the guilt offering, for the place is set apart. When the priests enter, they are not to go out of the set-apart room into the outer courtyard, but leave their garments in which they attend there. For they are set apart, and shall put on other garments, and shall draw near to that which is for the people. And when he had ended measuring the inner house, he brought me out through the gate that faces east, and measured it all around. He measured the east side with the measuring rod, 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the north side, 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the south side. He turned around to the west and measured 500 rods by the measuring rod. On the 4 sides he measured it. It had a wall all around, 500 long and 500 wide, to separate the set-apart places from the common. From the common. You should be taking notes. You should have been from the beginning. I pushed the record button. Chapter 43. And he led me to the gate facing east. And see, the esteem of the Most High of YASHERALA came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone from his esteem. And it was like the appearance of the vision which I saw, when he came to destroy the city. And the visions were like the vision which I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell on my face. And the esteem of Yahuwah came into the house by way of the gate facing east. And the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner courtyard, and see, the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house. And I heard someone speaking to me from the house, while a man stood beside me. And he said to me, Son of man, this is the place of my throne, and the place of my soles and my feet, when I dwell in the midst of the children of Yasharala forever. That's why you need to be paying attention. I hope you've done what would qualify you to get chose in this moment we're in right now, that we share right now. And the house of Yasharala shall no longer defile my set-apart name, which is what you do in those holidays. Anything to do with those days, that's what you do. They nor their sovereigns, by their whoring and by the corpses of their sovereigns on their high places. Just think about that. If you put money above anything else, you got those pictures of them dead presidents in your pocket. Do you use them as a tool, or do they run your life? Are you a slave to them? You tell me. You don't have to tell me. Work that out yourself. When they placed their threshold by my threshold, and their doorstep by my doorstep, with a wall between them and me, they separated themselves they separated themselves from him. When you got those things across your threshold and your doorstep, he ain't got nothing to do with you. You've built the wall up yourself. You have to take it down in order for him to even see you. They defiled my set-apart name by the abominations which they have done, so I consume them in my displeasure. Now let them put their whoring and their corpses of their sovereigns far away from me, and I shall dwell in their midst forever. Son of man, explain the house of Yasheral. This right here, I'm almost done for now. This is why I've decided to bring this to you. I'm going to read about it. I'm giving you this heads up video right here before I start reading about it to give anyone who is interested. And if you're not interested, you're telling Abba, don't choose me to be a part of the house of Yasherala. Because look, Son of man, explain the house to the house of Yasheral. And when they are ashamed of their crookedness, they shall measure the measurements. Why would someone measure measurements in their shame of crookedness? Let the Most High's word tell you why. And since they shall be ashamed of all that they did, make known to them. Hence why I'm here. Make known to them the design of the house and its structure, and its exits and its entrances, its entire design and all its laws, and all its forms and all its Torah, and write it down before their eyes so that they observe its entire design and all its laws and shall do them. You have to do the designs. Yes, you have to do the law. There's a reason he gives you each dimension for each room, for each threshold, for each walkway, for each courtyard, for each slaughter place. There's a reason. Don't believe me? Prove me wrong. You ain't gonna. But if you come to try, if you come to maybe partake because you're interested and you want to know why all members of the house of Yasheral are to know the designs and the dimensions, the measurements of this house, of the Hakal. If you have enough interest piqued within you right now, and you have enough desire to even be in the house of Yasheral, which is what it requires to live. If you ain't willing to be part of Yasheral, bye-bye. Only those of the house of Yasheral are going to live. We are all, those of us who will live are Yasherala. So therefore, if you want to be, you claim to be Yasheral, you have to know the dimensions of the Hakal, and there's a reason why you have to. This is the Torah of the house. Upon the mountaintop, all the boundary of it, all around is most set apart. See, this is the Torah of the house. The Torah of the house is the boundary all around, and it's most set apart. He just said, he said they set their threshold next to my threshold, their doorstep next to my doorstep. But the boundary of the set apart place, it's set apart. You can't bring none of that stuff. If you want to enter into the house, you can have none of that contraband on your person. Nowhere near you. You have to be like everyone sees as this stubborn asshole saying, treat those days like any other day. Have nothing to do with them. Give them no credence whatsoever. And keep on trucking. That's what you do. But why? But nothing. You either want to be chose or you don't. Choose this day. As for me, Dadi Ben Yahuwah's house, we choose this day and every day within my might, within my ability to choose. I choose Abba, Yahuwah, the Most High, our wonderful Creator. I choose this day, and any day I have breath in my lungs to give Him all praise, all honor, all glory, and all esteem. And all of you should do the same thing. Or not. Your choice.